Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the maiden voyage of What the Buddy and Kreese. We are your host,
I'm Buddy.
and I am Kreese. Buddy, why don't you tell the lovely listeners what they can expect with this new show?
Well, this show we're going to delve into topics of possible paranormal nature, paranormal being things that aren't explainable. So we're going to look at paranormal activities, personal experiences. We're going to give you, the listeners, a chance at the end of the show to email us any of your personal experiences. We're open to analyze those for you if you'd like to give us all the pertinent information, and we'll tell you what we think.
Oh, and we are full of opinions and ideas, let me tell you that.
Lots and lots of opinions.
So, all right. So, Buddy, let's start off. I know you've had an interesting story that you just recently shared with me. Why don't you share that with our listeners?
Yeah, so it's probably 2010 or so, and I believe it was around probably fall, early, maybe mid to late fall. I was at the time, my wife and I were over the road expediting, doing it in a cargo van.
What exactly is that, so everybody knows?
So basically, it's like a over the road truck, but truck driving, but instead of a big 18-wheeled truck, it was a 4-wheeled cargo van.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So a lot easier to drive.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So we were on our way back from the Midwest, coming back out here to Arizona, and we believe, if I'm not mistaken, we delivered somewhere in the Denver area, and we took the scenic route back across Colorado and Utah.
And that whole area is nothing but scenic.
Yeah,
The mountains and even the high desert
absolutely
plateaus.
gorgeous.
You've got beautiful country.
Yeah, so we ended up on 89, and we dropped down into Arizona from Utah on 89, and we traveled through the bustling metropolis of Fredonia, and on our way to Page. And
Well, if I remember correctly, if I'm getting my geographics correctly, you got a lot of mileage in between Denver and that region of Colorado, getting down through Fredonia, where there's no towns or people,
Right.
maybe an occasional vehicle passing you, right?
desolation, yeah, for sure. You could drive for probably an hour in between sightings of a oncoming vehicle.
So let me ask you this: did you find your mind wandering when you didn't have anybody out there?
Yeah.
You've been driving
Yeah.
truck for a lot of years.
Oh yeah, I've got.
How long have you been driving truck again?
I've got 20 years on a CDL, over 1 million incident-free miles.
So you definitely know hallucinations from not seeing things and being tired
Correct,
and whatnot, and just that constant same the damn stripes on the road
Right.
that can mesmerize
White
you.
line fever.
Correct. So
Yeah.
were you weren't experiencing any of that on that
Not
trip
at all.
down?
No, I was lucid and clear thinking. It was afternoon. So if I'm not mistaken, we either had lunch in Kanab or in Fredonia, the bustling metropolis of Fredonia, and we were just continuing on over to Page, where then we were going to turn south and head into the Valley of the Sun. And we're cruising along at a good clip. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the speed limit was 65. I was probably doing 75.
Statute of limitations have expired, so
That's
we don't have to worry about that.
So, state troopers, you can't catch me, even though I admitted it on the podcast. So, we're going in this area, and I'm seeing signs for Jacob's Lake coming up. Don't know what that is. Further investigation later on, I found out that Jacob's Lake doesn't even have a lake, so I don't know what the Jacob's Lake thing's all about. But anyways, I'm not from that area.
Somebody
so
probably hallucinated and his name was Jacob.
that could be he saw a big lake or got wet or something. Anyways, so I'm cruising down the road, and at this point, the sun is behind me, and we're getting into a curvy area of road. So the sun is shifting between behind me and to the right of the vehicle. And I'm on a particular straight path when I notice off to the right shoulder of the road, and not very far off to the right, probably within 20 to 30 feet of the shoulder. I see an anomalous activity I see birds, which I realize birds on the side of the road is not
Out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah,
in the middle of
makes
nowhere.
sense.
It's not, but I mean, usually you see bird activity a ways off the road.
Well, besides you and your wife, was there anybody else on the road at that point?
At that particular moment, I do not recall anybody. There was no oncoming traffic at all. I can't recall completely if there was anybody behind us. I don't think there was anybody in the immediate vicinity of our van traveling on the road at that time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So
And weather's still clear, right?
weather's clear. Yeah,
Okay.
it's sunny. Not sure the temperature. When you're trapped in a van, you don't give a crap what the temperature is outside because you're stuck inside. You
Yeah.
either got the air on or you got the heat on. Those are
Sure,
the two
sure.
climates that you encounter as a truck driver of sorts. So I see this and the reason why I call it anomalous is because I see some rather large birds. I don't know if they're crows. I'm not an avian specialist.
Were they pterodactyls?
They were not pterodactyls.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure they weren't
Okay,
pterodactyls.
just check it. Because there are stories around the
You're
world
right.
and around this country of out in the middle of nowhere that people have spotted flying dinosaurs.
Right. Yeah, they could
Which
have been
we'll
pterodactyls.
explore
Yeah.
later on.
Right. I'm pretty sure that if a pterodactyl would have been in the space that this group of birds was in, there would have not been enough room for more than one pterodactyl.
Fair enough.
You
Yeah,
know,
makes sense. Yeah.
But could have been. Who knows? There could have been some bad meat in Fredonia. I don't know. But anyway, so I see this group of birds flying, and they're circling, and like I said, they're larger birds. And doing some research after the fact,
Uh-huh.
and actually most recently when I started thinking about this, crows and larger birds, all birds can fly in a formation. I haven't found any record or any research to back up a tight formation. So,
Okay,
and
I
what I
got you.
mean by tight formation is, as I've discussed with Kreese before, the Canada geese thing. Okay, Canada geese, they're a large bird, but they generally, in a migratory path, they fly in some kind of a V formation with the head goose at the beginning and the gooseling underlings
Gotcha.
flying.
And we're talking about Canadian geese, not Canadian dry ale.
Right. Yeah,
Okay, just
geese,
check.
Yeah.
Okay, just verify.
Not,
Yeah.
not
Gotcha.
Olson's, eh?
Yeah.
So.
Would you like some gravy with those fries, eh?
Yeah, no, I'm not putting that in my mouth. So back to the birds. They're rather large birds, but what I believe caught my mind the most about the birds was the tightness of the formation. So I'm seeing what I can only describe as, if you've seen vultures way up high in the air, kind of swarming around a carcass, and they're using the airfoils
I got you. Yeah.
to come down
Okay.
to get to said carcass. Well, these were definitely not vultures. I mean, like I said, I'm not an avian specialist, but I know they were not vultures.
Really? I thought you were a bird watcher. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You're not a bird watcher.
No.
I've known you for 20.
Right.
Hell, I've known you for almost 40 years. Yeah.
Now, my wife, she's an avian lover. She loves birds. Not so much. I mean, I like them. My wife has some birds.
You like
and
them
I
for dinner.
Yeah, I like chicken.
Yep.
Yeah. Free range, buckshot chicken. But anyways, I
Don't. Hey, in
digress.
Thanksgiving times, you got the gobble gobble gobbles.
That's right, the gobble gobbles. So these birds, they're flying in this tight formation, circular formation, and they're not way up in the airfoils. They're close to the ground.
To the ground. Okay.
Within 15, 20 feet of the ground. And as I'm cruising along, and granted, remember back, I'm doing 65, 75 possible miles an hour. I didn't have a lot of time to focus, But I do know that I saw these birds start to break off into subsets of birds.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. So let's paint a picture. If there was 20 birds, and 5 of those birds started flying in their own little formation, tight formation, and then 5 or 6 more birds started flying in this tight formation, and then the bulk of the rest of them started flying in a formation above those other 2 formations in the form of a person. So I can see, and I can see it as vivid now as I could that day. I could see legs.
Okay.
2 legs. I could see them forming this torso. And as they're getting tighter, the light between the birds is getting less. They're getting tighter.
I got you. All right.
You know, they're not railroading,
So-
but they're like on each other's rear ends.
Yeah, light's not seeping through the mass.
Right. Yeah, and you
Okay.
can start to see this formation of a creature, and even one or 2 birds at the top, really tight formation is creating like a head. So I'm looking at this anomalous situation here, and I'm seeing legs forming, and I'm seeing a torso forming.
Now, is this in the middle of the road, or is this just off to the
This
side
is
of
off
the
to
road?
the side of the road,
Okay.
15, 20 feet.
Okay. All right.
No more than 20 feet.
Okay.
Within 15 to 20 feet.
And your eyes are trained on this.
And
This has got
and-
your attention.
Yeah, I'm looking at this because I know there's nothing ahead of
And
me.
there's
and
no
I'm
other cars
pretty
coming
sure
by,
there's
so you don't have to
nothing
worry
behind
about
me.
hitting them or
Right,
anything. Okay.
exactly. Or any of that kind of stuff. So I see this, and as I'm seeing this form, I talk to my wife. She's sitting right next to me, and I say, "Hon," I said, "do you see those birds?" And as she's raising her head from her puzzle book or cell phone or whatever she was doing at the time, right then at that exact moment, a herd of deer come from the left side. So remember, these birds are off to the right side.
On the west side of the road.
On the west side.
Because you're headed southbound.
Southwest side. Because I don't remember if we were on. I don't think we were on a straightaway. So
Okay.
it would have been on the west side of the road. So as these birds are forming, and I'm telling my wife, "Hey, hon, look at this." A herd of deer come from the left side, the other side of the vehicle. So I'm trained on the right side. Now, as I'm telling my wife, "Hey, look at those birds," I pan back to look forward, and out of my left peripheral vision, I see a deer. Well, I see one deer. Well, as I'm hitting this one deer, I'm seeing 24 more deer running, right, like diagonally across the front of my van. Well, of course, I hit the first one I saw, because by the time I saw its eyeballs, it was in the fender of the van.
Got you. Now, was it mule deer? Was it an
Not
elk?
Sure. Not
Was
a
it
deer dude either.
Okay.
It was definitely not an elk.
So it wasn't large enough to
it
total
was-
your vehicle
Yeah,
out.
it was a deer. I mean, yeah, I sustained, a wrinkled fender, broken headlight.
Gotcha. Okay.
It did bend up the bumper, and it knocked my deer screamer
Okay.
off the bumper.
Okay. Hopefully it wasn't
Which-
Bambi.
Which
or,
wasn't
or her
working
mother.
because
Yeah.
obviously I hit a deer.
Yeah.
So I hit this deer. Well, natural reaction, I'm on the brakes. I'm slowing down.
Well, of
slowing
course.
down. Pulling over to the side of the road. I knew there was nobody behind me. I knew there was nobody ahead of me, so I pulled over to the side of the road. So I never looked back to the right, because now I've got to deal with dead deer, Bambi's cousin, dead in the middle of the road. A large deer, probably a couple of 100 pounds maybe, I'm
Yeah.
not even sure.
Yeah.
Didn't weigh it.
Well, Bubba's got to look for oncoming
Yeah.
traffic. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. It needs to learn how to look both ways before it crosses the street. Everybody learned that in kindergarten.
Exactly.
But anyways, so I hit this deer. Okay, so, boom, we're over to the side of the road. Now the wife's rattled. She's, freaking out.
Well, of
because
course.
we just killed something. So I pull over the side of the road, and a little bit of time goes by. I get out. I survey the damage to the vehicle. I see the deer is dead. I see it's not moving. It's not writhing in pain. It was a clean kill, humane kill. It's not suffering.
Okay, good.
Probably 5-10 minutes goes by, or maybe not even that much. Let's back up a little bit. Probably a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Go by. Another vehicle, a gentleman in a pickup truck, pulls up behind me. Concerned citizen, wants to make sure we're okay.
Well, it's nice back then. Everybody was concerned,
right? Yeah,
not like today.
Yeah. My wife and I are standing outside the vehicle. There's a dead deer carcass in the road. It doesn't take Inspector Gadget to figure out somebody hit a deer.
Exactly.
Now, is everybody okay? Did it come through the windshield?
Sure,
all
sure.
that kind of stuff. So at the time that all this happens, a little bit of a history of me and my wife. We moved to the Midwest in early 2000. 2003. And we were living in the Midwest, which, as anybody who knows,
Sure.
I've read any books or any seen any kind of news articles about the Midwest, the place is like lousy with deer.
Yes.
There are deer everywhere. People
Yes,
are
there is.
hitting dead. They're dead deer every 5 feet in certain times of the year, especially
Sure.
when they're feeding and,
Yep.
and when they're making baby deers. Never once did I ever hit a deer living in the Midwest.
Yeah, gotcha.
Only when I'm out here in where I'm from.
Well, yeah,
Arizona.
welcome home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was my welcome home gift. So, anyways, back to the story at hand. So I hit the deer. Gentleman stops, checks on me and my wife to make sure we're okay, and he says to me, he goes, "Well," I said, "Yeah, there was a bunch of them. I missed 23 of them, but I hit one of them." And he goes, "Well, yeah, you're lucky that the other 25 deer that were up on the plateau next to the highway didn't run out too. Otherwise, I probably would have hit more than one." So that really, in and of itself at the time, didn't resonate with me very well. But
Well, it's interesting you had 2 packs of deer
Yeah,
together,
2 packs
and they
of
all
deer.
didn't. And if it was truly one herd, they all didn't go at the same time.
Right, yeah.
At least
Yeah.
from my experience.
as I think about it now, and as I started thinking about it the other day, what made me want to bring this up to Kreese was that, the herd mentality is you stay with the herd because there's safety in numbers. Well, what created a scenario where half of the herd decided it was okay to go, and the other half decided, hey, we're going to just hang here and see what happens.
Yeah.
Big white van, there's panthers on the side of it. I don't, a
A
deer,
decal, not real panthers, because that would be really odd.
Yeah, right. We didn't hang our kill on the side. But anyways, so it just makes me kind of think, what possessed the 24 deer to run out in front of us? Then I got to thinking, oh, wait a minute, what was going on the right side of the road with the large birds just before the herd decided to, half the herd, sorry,
Come
decided
run over.
to outrun a van.
Yeah, I got you.
So there's a couple of different things that kind of pops to my mind. Just hearing stories throughout the years growing up in Arizona as a young tyke, you hear of shapeshifters and werewolves, and of course they popularize it in the movies and
Very true.
in your underworlds and all the other. I could probably sit here and name I probably couldn't name all of them, but I could name quite a few of them.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, was that a shapeshifter? And was the shapeshifter controlling the deer herd?
That's a possibility.
Or was the I'm going to call them the smarter half of the deer herd, the ones that
The
decided-
brains of the operation.
Yeah, the brains of the operation. Were they controlling? Like I said, I hit a pretty large deer. It had to be somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple of 100 pounds. I didn't try to lift it and carry it off the road because I'm not He-Man or
Well,
Superman.
And that would be a violation of Arizona Fish and Game.
Well, that would probably be, yeah, I would have gotten arrested for that or something, which you can't get me now because statute of limitations.
Holla.
Yeah, so, it just begs to ask the question, what were the events that led to that particular activity in that sequence? My wife wishes that she would have seen the birds. But she didn't. She didn't get a chance to see him because chaos and everything ensued in the form of a deer, and so that's just one particular thing. I mean, kind of the icing on the cake was. So I'm in between Page and Fredonia on 89A in northern Arizona with no cell phone signal, and so I decided to continue on to Page because we were continuing in an easterly. We're trying to get down to Phoenix and see family. You
have to go east to Page on that highway because you're going to run through the Grand Canyon if you don't.
Right, exactly, yeah. So I get down to Page, no cell phone signal anywhere along that road until I get to Page, of course. And so I get to Page and I decide to call the highway patrol because there's a 200-pound animal dead in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And I was concerned. So I finally get a hold of, I had to call their dispatch up in that region.
Yeah, out of Flagstaff.
Yeah, and then I finally get a call back from an officer who, instead of saying, hey, thanks for letting us know, we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
He decides to ask me, why didn't I go back to Fredonia to get cell phone signal? Which at that time kind of pissed me off the time.
It doesn't make sense because you were obviously closer to Page,
right?
Which makes more sense. It's
Yeah,
clearly
exactly.
a highway patrolman at the time who wasn't listening to what you were saying.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, here, I could have just, licked my wounds and, drove on down with my busted headlight because I had plenty of time to make it there before.
Sure.
Or at least the Page before it got dark and all that kind of stuff. And just not even given a crap about a dead deer in the middle of the road and the potential of somebody else hitting it. And I decide to call and report this, and instead of like, hey, thanks, I get, well, why didn't you go back to Fredonia? Well, I didn't go back to Fredonia. I don't know if Fredonia has cell phone signal.
Well, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, so you probably have a trooper out there, or excuse me, at that time they were only highway patrolmen.
Oh, that's troopers right, no troopers.
Here in Arizona. And he was probably stationed several hundred miles away, and that was part of his district, but he was a long ways away, and he'd have to go all the way out there.
Yeah.
So,
but anyways, just a strange occurrences of, a strange timeline of events that happened all at that one particular time.
Well, buddy, that's exactly what we like on the show.
That's right. That's what we're doing this show for, is to kind of showcase those kind of things that go bump in the night that we can't explain.
Oh, I like it when things go bump in the night because I get to go explore.
Right. With the flashlight and the EMF detector.
Why they call me Kreese.
That's right, the Kreese. So, that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of the story. A couple $1,000s in repairs later, and because everything's unibody now, so you got to replace half the vehicle.
Well, of course.
Just to replace the fender. But, and some time has passed. But, just out of the blue, I'm no longer a long-haul truck driver or
well, no, because you're a podcaster with me.
Because now we're podcasting. But, just thought of that. Thought, Kreese is a paranormal guy. And,
yes, I am.
And I just wanted to share that with him. And he thought it would be a good idea if we share that with everybody listening and see how it goes.
So, well, and thank you very much, buddy, for sharing that with everybody. I think it's a good segue into our show for all of our listeners.
Right.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, like we said, if you want, you can definitely email us your stories, your experiences. We will share them on the air as long as you give us permission, of course.
And what's that?
And then we'll analyze this. I'm glad you asked. So our email is going to be WTBandK@gmail.com. And if you haven't figured it out, it stands for What the Buddy and Kreese. So please don't hesitate to send us those stories or comments, whether you like the show, you have suggestions for us. Hey, we're open to it. You know, we're looking just to have fun, and this has been a blast, buddy.
Yeah.
For our first show, and
sure.
ladies and gentlemen, we'll be uploading multiple times a week.
Right.
So.
And you don't have to just limit it to paranormal stuff. We pretty much know everything.
We do.
If Kreese doesn't know it, I know it. So
We do. We're news junkies, but we're not the mainstream media. We like the current events, and we like things that are obscure, that isn't talked to
that's right.
a lot.
Talked about
I
a
just
lot.
found out that apparently the Midwest has suffered some tornadoes that has not been reported
Oh boy.
this past few days. You know, right now it's August 16th. So we, you know, again, we look at the stories that aren't necessarily covered over it. It may be paranormal related, it may not be, but it could be a strange occurrence. And we'll talk about that.
Right.
So, buddy, do you have anything else for our listeners?
No, just stay tuned and keep checking back. We're gonna try to release content 2, 3, 4 times a week. So and it's always going to be something interesting. And that's pretty much all I have.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this maiden voyage of this podcast of What the Buddy and Kreese. This is a Loyal Family Productions. We out.
Bye.